Hello, everybody. Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dan Rather, and Monica Padman sits across from me, per usual. She's adorned in purple.
Mm-hmm.
She has a lot of weapons at her disposal, ways for her to make her beautiful brown skin pop. And I always find orange for you gives you a real pop.
Oh, I don't wear orange very much.
You don't, but when you do wear orange, I'm quick to comment on it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Let's think about this. Yeah, I think so.
I'm trying to really think about if I have anything orange, and I don't think I do.
You do.
Like
well, maybe we're
soup?
not unlike, this is regular with me, is getting in arguments about what color is what color. Because I see, but just.
You're talking about tomato. Tomato red. Red, really.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were in a tomato blouse the other day, right?
The t-shirt?
And I made a real to-do about how it was complimenting your skin tone. Well, this is weirdly appropriate because our guest has a very distinct level of melatonin.
Redness.
Melanin, not melatonin. That puts you to sleep. Melanin, which dictates how dark your skin is.
Well, he has a defective.
Well, hold on.
Look,
now.
that's what it is. A defective gene.
No, I think it was an evolutionary answer to getting less vitamin D in northern climates.
MCR1 gene.
You could argue
and
that
it's defective.
It's defective.
According to my research, yes.
Okay. You could argue he's more evolved than you and I.
Well, he's smarter than all of us, yes.
That's true. You and I combined. He's a very smart guy. He's also a hysterical guy. And my favorite side of him, which is the least known side of him, is his thoughtful side and his serious side, because he is a uniquely disciplined person, incredibly educated person, and a very hardworking person. And I was exposed to that side of him on Howard Stern's show, which you'll hear about. Conan O'Brien, who I have my own fun past with, if you've listened to this show, because I was momentarily off that show, and then I regained favor over there and done it a bunch of times since, and we're chummy, and he regales us with his whole story, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
But before we get to Conan, I do want to announce yet another live performance from the gang at Armchair Expert. We're going to be in Los Angeles. We're going to have a live show at the Theater at the Ace Hotel, which is a gloriously restored, cool, old venue. That's on January 17th, 15 days after my birthday. We can call it a birthday show. Tickets are on sale tomorrow, Tuesday, November 27th at 10 a.m. local time. That's PST, Pacific time. Go to our website if you want to get tickets for this at www.armchairexpertpod.com. And we hope to see you in our home of Los Angeles. So please enjoy Conan O'Brien.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
First of all, what a role reversal. So I think I've done your show in the teens at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've done the show many times. I call you a money in the pocket guest.
Oh, I'm
being serious.
Thank you. I love that description.
You are, actually it's called money in the bank. Money in the pocket's not as good.
That sounds more like a 20s English thing.
Yeah.
Money in the pocket.
It's efficient. You have to take it to the bank, then you have to put it in your pocket.
Better
This is
just-
straight to the pocket.
This is
Are you
right where you
nervous?
want it.
There's a lot of handsy.
Mike is holding her.
Oh, yeah, I have to hold mine.
Hold your microphone. You look like Rudy Valley. It's an old reference. No one listening to a podcast will get it.
But what I'm going to, before we even launch into this, what I'm going to say, and I'm going to try to outmaneuver you with a compliment.
Are we rolling yet? Or
always.
is this?
We're always rolling. ABR. Always be rolling.
Always be rolling.
Always
okay.
be rolling. If you remember, I sent you one of the most sincere emails I think I've ever sent in my life, and it was after hearing you on Stern. Mm-hmm. And it's in my top 4 interviews I've ever heard. I fucking love that interview. And even though I've been out in real life with you a couple times, and of course you're quite sincere when we're out in real life, to hear you so sincere on Stern was such a different side of you that I had never really heard, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this show is boring and sad, so feel no compulsion to be entertaining or funny, okay?
Done. I do, when asked sincere questions, I do answer them.
Mm-hmm. Great. How long's your penis?
You know,
Flaccid.
Wait, flaccid?
Yes, of course.
No, that's not good. We'll go back. If you hadn't said flaccid, I'd have gone for it.
Okay.
Mine expands exponentially. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
It's like the Hulk of penises.
I mean, seriously, I am 43. I've been with the penis for a long, long time, and I am regularly blown away with what a bizarre organ it is.
It's a strange one.
It is. If your hand just tripled in size, it's almost like a superpower if you think about it, although no good generally comes from it. It is a freaky organ.
It will go away. If you look at evolution, it's an appendage that's going away.
A vestigial appendage.
It's going to go away. There's a better way for us to have this transaction of sperm and egg.
I think you're right.
Than a penile shaft that hangs off of your abdomen and doesn't really belong there. So it's going to go away in the next 6 million years.
Yeah, it's a cumbersome, it's just a lot of business between your legs. You're a cyclist.
Yeah.
That's a new hobby of yours or like a few years old?
No, I've been doing that for a long time. I actually do it a little less now. I do more running and swimming because it's less likely I'll get killed.
Yeah, we talked about that when I saw you. You were telling me how into it you were.
I've been into cycling for a long time. I have, as you know, I don't think this comes across on TV. I'm not. You see, you're giggling.
No, I just like you so much.
This doesn't come across on TV, but I am very long in the leg. I'm tall, but I'm like 80% leg. So for some reason, when I get on a bike and I start going, I can go forever.
Yeah.
It's a great exercise for me, and I really enjoy it, and I love the mechanics of bikes. I love the whole thing. I love, but in Los Angeles, it's really tricky.
It is, but I just got my first road bike like a month ago. I impulse bought it, and what I immediately like about it is, unlike running where I'm bored out of my mind, there is a fair level of danger when cycling in LA. So it requires your full attention.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy that aspect.
Do you plan your route so that no?
In fact, I weirdly am lazy in that I'll just ride kind of paralleling the subway system. So if at any point I'm like, I can't go any further, I'll just get on the subway and come back, which I've done.
Wow.
I just ride till I'm out of gas and then get on the subway.
You got to really be careful in this town. In this day of people texting while they're driving, they don't care.
No.
And if you're killed on a bicycle, no one feels sorry for you. They just think everyone at your funeral is like, what a dick. He was on a bike
Absolutely.
in a dense urban area. And have you ever been to, if you go to the funeral of someone who died while skydiving,
right?
No one's crying.
That's right. Or
they're just cruelly laughing.
Or cardiac arrest from crack.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no, oh, what a loss.
You're right.
That's always present in my mind. If I'm badly hurt on the bike,
Tear-free funeral,
my fault.
Yeah.
Even in heaven, no one's talking to me.
And don't you feel like it's very weird? I genuinely juggled or wrestle with this, which is I do have kids and I have things I love doing. And I think like, God, what a dick. If you're at that funeral and I have 2 little kids, everyone's going to be like, what a fucking dick. He had to ride a motorcycle. He didn't get enough motorcycle riding in the 30 years before he had kids,
We've talked about this. You still ride a motorcycle.
I do.
And you're just going to ride a motorcycle the rest of your life.
It might be a short life. Might be a long
but you
one.
can choose. You can choose not to split lanes in dense traffic. You can make smart decisions on a motorcycle.
I'd argue that's more dangerous.
What?
Not splitting lanes.
Really?
Yes, because
Why?
if you look at states without lane splitting laws, a very high percentage of the fatalities are people getting rear-ended by other motorists who are texting. They don't fucking see the stop motorcycle and then they blow through it. So if you're always moving faster than the traffic, you at least you have some kind of control over getting rear-ended minimally.
Oh.
Do you like that explanation? Are you buying? That's what I told my wife.
I buy that. I think mostly what you have going for you is you've been riding a motorcycle since you were 2.
Roughly. Yeah,
I think you came out on some kind of motorized bicycle.
I did.
At birth.
My dad took me home on the gas tank of an Enduro.
You shot out of the vaginal canal like Evel Knievel.
That's right.
And landed on the other side of a canyon. So you know what you're doing. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine. Now, what kind of parents did you have?
I do have. They're still alive.
Okay. But I guess I mean in childhood. Because they could have evolved. Maybe they're really laid back now.
They are more laid back than they were.
They're Irish Catholic.
They're very Irish Catholic. What's the most Irish Catholic you could be?
Yeah.
My parents took and take their Catholicism seriously. And so I grew up, and they're very funny, and I love them to death. But it's funny in some ways. I think they adopted some of the mores that their parents and their grandparents handed to them and brought it into the 20th century sort of unfiltered. So in some ways, I feel like I grew up in olden times. Does that make sense to you?
Sure.
For example,
super traditional.
Well, there's a fear of alcoholism, and for good reason if you're hardcore Irish Catholic. So I grew up in a dry house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no alcohol.
Okay.
No alcohol. I don't think I've told anybody this. I grew up in a house where there's no alcohol. I've never seen my parents hold a glass of alcohol. And in my life, I think at my wedding, I saw my dad like holding a glass of champagne, but he probably didn't drink it.
Right.
And because of that, I did not drink till I was 26 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
And how are you as a drinker? You're fine with it?
I'm fine with it. I don't do hard spirits. Okay. I'm not a guy who goes up to the bar and says, I don't even know what people are talking about when they say, give me a whiskey gimlet with a jub. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Rusty nail. Oh, yeah. It's delicious, by the way.
Okay.
Very
I'm
yummy.
just asking Monica if she knows what the drinks are.
Monica's still very much in the game.
I still
like
drink.
She's 31 and she lives in Hollywood and she's an actress. So yeah, she has like the Moscow Mules. She loves them.
Moscow
with a
Mule's
cute little
good.
cup,
Yeah.
and it looks frosty.
I will try those drinks every now and then. I need to sometimes be in a location. I was shooting a travel show in Berlin, staying in a hotel there, and they had Moscow Mules and a copper cup, and I had the Moscow Mule, and it was pleasant, but I am mostly stick to wine.
Oh, wine.
I also like wine.
I stick to wine.
Yes, you do. You really like it.
And I'm okay with it. I don't have an addiction issue. I very much like to be in control. I don't like the way you feel when you have too much. Mm-hmm. When I get a buzz on,
sure.
I think I'm a nice person. I become 3 times nicer.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. So I am very solicitous of people's feelings. If I've had like 3 or 4 glasses of red wine, I'm being honestly sincere with you. I would want to help you in any way, Dax. Is there any way I can help you? I like you. I'm not an I love you man guy. I don't say I love you, but I promise to get involved in your life and help you in any way I can.
You start feeling really benevolent.
Generous.
Yeah, I'm very benevolent, very generous. And
that's
then
very sweet.
It's really nice. People have told me that they've had the nicest conversations. And you know what I've done? Every now and then when I've gotten somewhat buzzed, I'll say, and I send a text or an email, you wake up the next morning and you know that dread you have that, oh my God, what did I say? For a lot of people, it is something they dread. I mean, it is something worth dreading because they read it later on and it's like, you think you're a good boss, but you're a terrible boss.
Sure.
And I'd like to rip your ass open with whatever. And I always look at mine later on because I think, oh my God, I know I sent them something at 2 a.m. and we really had a nice time. And then I read it It's beautifully written and sweet and succinct. And I'm like, oh my God, that's my drunk text.
It's like the best version of yourself.
Yes, it is a better version of myself.
Well, it sounds to me like you're getting the effects that normally you get from MDMA, from ecstasy, but just through drinking.
So you're saying I'm not done ecstasy? Should I do it?
Oh, 100%. I don't know. Again, you said
I wouldn't even know where to get it.
I'll find some for you.
Okay. I'm someone who I would say in the, I don't think it's the case now. Now that I've had a lot of therapy and worked on a lot of my stuff and continue to work on a lot of my stuff. But I would say in the 80s and 90s, I'm someone who would have been healthier if I had been drinking or taking some kind of drug.
Yeah.
A mild drug, like if I'd been smoking pot.
Yeah.
Robert Smigel at Saturday Night Live once told me, you're the only person I know who I think would live longer if you smoked.
Yeah.
Because I was so keyed up.
Tightly wound.
And I was so intense about what I was doing. When he said it, I didn't even take it as a joke. It clicked. I thought he's right. If I had a pack of Marlboros and I had a lighter and I just stepped outside the writer's room every now and then and smoked a couple and came back in, whatever damage that did to my lungs and my heart would be offset by the peace of mind it gave me.
Yeah, I kind of believe that.
I have the gene, the redhead sort of Viking gene. 2 days ago, I got up. It was over the weekend. I got up. I didn't have a great night's sleep. I went downstairs. My wife had made coffee, strong coffee. I had 4 cups of coffee, went back upstairs and went to bed and slept for 2 hours.
Okay.
Now I don't, there's a buzzsaw inside of me that grinds through medications. And same thing, if I go to the dentist and they give me Novocaine, they'll give me much more than other people. And then they go to do it and I feel everything. And they say, oh yeah, you're one of those, you're a redhead. So I guess that's a thing.
You're like, so there's these areas maybe you're metabolizing all these
I
things
metabolize
quicker.
It and spit it out.
Yeah. You're a machine. If you're hardcore Irish, which you are, you're, as I like to, you're pure Irish.
I'm a pure
Loves
Irish.
to call people pure.
No, I am I am more Irish than most people you would find in Ireland.
Yeah, and that's
100%?
100%.
Yeah.
And so very, very high occurrence of addiction and that the gene, the addiction gene. So it's quite likely that, you just have the good chemistry to like handle all that shit. Were your parents' abstinence from alcohol a reaction to their parents, or maybe
their parents had been dry as well?
Oh,
so we're talking about all grandparents, all 4 grandparents.
Oh my goodness!
Both grandfathers, both grandmothers, alcohol never touched their lips. And this is the thing: if you come from central Massachusetts and it's the 19th, early 20th century, and you live in farm country and you're Irish Catholic, there are 2 ways you can fuck up your life. One is with alcohol, and the other is to get someone pregnant before you're married to them. It is instilled in you without even being spoken. It's passed on through the genes. That's the way to fuck up. That's the way to lose your life and be disgraced. So the strictures, the mores about sex and alcohol are really hardcore.
And you listened.
You know what's interesting? I did. I lost my virginity during Obama's second term.
Okay, right, sure, right. And I was going to bring that up, and that's
during
Nav. You had your first,
my first.
Very
daughter.
Potent. Thank God you waited so long.
I waited a long time.
Couple hundred kids.
Yeah, and
but I wonder, what did your parents do?
They're very smart people, and they were both sort of the Irish Catholic rock stars of the 40s and 50s. But their parents had not gone to college. My mom's dad directed traffic in downtown Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester, that's a real place,
Worcester,
right?
Mass. Yeah, and my mom. We'll start with my mom. My mom, completely through hard work, got herself a full scholarship to Vassar.
No shit.
Back when not a lot of Irish Catholic women from Worcester are going
is that
to
the late 50s or early 60s?
That would be late 40s, early 50s, and then she got herself a full scholarship to Yale Law School.
Get the fuck out of here.
So, and then she has all these amazing stories. And it's funny, she'll tell stories about, when I first started clerking for estates,
This is like Ruth Bader Ginsburg's story. Literally.
Yeah. Ruth Bader Ginsburg stole my mom's story.
Okay, that makes sense. That holds up.
No, my mom was one of those people that did this incredible thing, then went to work for a big law firm. And again, this is a time, think early Mad Men episodes.
Yeah, they're treating her very well, I'm imagining.
She always she was not bitter at all. She would just say, I loved, everyone was very nice to me. And then she'll tell a story about, there was a time that we were working on a big case and then it was time to eat lunch and everyone went into the executive dining room. But they were nice. They set up a little table for me.
Oh, Jesus.
Out in the hallway.
Oh, my goodness.
Because women weren't allowed in a executive dining room. And rather than anger or spite, she just had this and has this. That's kind of what it was. And that's what we dealt with. And it was okay. And I got through it. And then she had 6 kids at the same time.
Goodness.
One every 3 weeks for a while there.
Sure.
It's a unique genetic ability of the Irish is that we can have 3 babies a year.
She never checked out of the hospital. She
did
stayed.
not.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm good. I like this bed. So 1 a year for a while. There's a practicality to that generation.
Sure.
Today there's a lot of, I think, much more awareness, obviously, with, Me Too movement and all these different, which are fantastic, and people are speaking out and they're talking and there's much more of an awareness. And I feel this is a much better world for my daughter.
Oh,
for example, and I feel, and so everything that's happening now, I think, I'm thank God, because my daughter, this is the world that she's coming into, and there's going to be heightened awareness. My mom, that didn't exist in 1949, 1950, and so there's a practicality there. It's like, let's push ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a history question. What I've figured out that I like about reading history, which you and I share in common, is it is comforting to me to recognize that, it was much worse. It's always been much, much worse.
Exactly.
It's pertinent to know, and I think generally people don't have a great grasp of what it actually was like. It's not to say you shouldn't keep fighting very hard to move forward, but also recognize there's been some pretty amazing progress.
All you have to do is, it's one of the reasons I also love to read history is that right now we're at a time when there are many young people, not just Gen Xers, but millennials, and they're tearing their hair out and saying it's never been this bad. And I keep saying to them, oh no, it's always been awful.
Yeah.
It's always been awful.
Yeah.
And not only has it been awful, but this nation of ours has been a work in progress. Humanity's been a work in progress. The 20th century, first of all, the 19th century was terrible. And everyone thought when the 19th century was over, there's a new century now, 20th century, and mankind is getting smarter, and countries now they share a banking system. We rely on each other. And so literally in 1905 and 1908, people were writing essays saying there will never be war again.
Yeah.
And then we have...
Oh, you look like the world fairs back then. It was almost like they were celebrating we've finished.
We're done.
All done, yeah.
We're done.
Electricity.
Well, we're done. We have electricity and only 1 out of 3 children die
Yes, exactly.
before 5 now. And so hip, hip for us, I say.
Yeah.
But then you look at the 20th century, and between World War I was so awful and so dreadful. It's very hard to explain to anybody how just imagine giant meat grinders that you're feeding the fruit of a generation to on both sides, and that runs on for 4 years and nothing is accomplished. And when it's over, no one knows why we even did that.
And the table's perfectly set now for
World War II.
Yeah, bigger.
Yeah. And then World War II is in many ways worse. And then that ends with us inventing nuclear weapons. And so people say we've never been more split as a country. And I keep saying there was a 4-year war when one side of the country was trying to kill the other. And then I had this thought the other day, which is, could there be a civil war now? And then I thought, that'd be tricky because none of the states that don't get along, they're not attached to each other. When it was North versus South, a whole chunk could say we're together, and you could travel from South Carolina
and there was
to
a
Georgia.
line.
There was a line. There was a Mason-Dixon line. Now, well, California has linked forces with New York. And you think, well, wait a minute, how does that work? And then I think to myself, it's not even California and New York. It's San Francisco and Los Angeles have linked forces with Manhattan, but upstate New York hates Manhattan. So
Fresno's invading LA.
Fresno is invading Los Angeles. Sure. Bakersfield is helping Fresno.
All of Oregon's closing in on Portland.
Yeah. And then exactly. And then there are, Portland is trying to join forces with Seattle, but East Washington has attacked. We're all going to be so busy with our podcasts that we'll be overrun. It'll be a bunch of hipsters making. I just made a gin that's pure.
So dad must be kind of a confident guy because is misogynistic as this sounds to say, it takes kind of an evolved man in the 50s to be married to a woman pursuing a career in law.
I think he liked that she was bringing money in.
Yeah, okay, good.
I'm going to say that and also my dad.
I'm in a similar situation.
My dad is and was, I think, highly evolved. My dad's also a brilliant guy. On his side, he went and got full scholarship, Holy Cross College, then full scholarship to Harvard Medical School.
Oh my
where he's like
fucking God.
Where he just watch the
I'm
language.
way less impressed now with your accomplishments.
Yeah. Well,
you should have been president. Anything shy of president is a failure.
There's still time. There's still time.
Okay. Big first admission. First, you heard it here first.
There's still time.
Conan 2028.
I think 2048.
I don't even know.
2048.
Oh, okay.
If that even lines up. I don't think it does. There's someone out there who knows immediately that, nope, that's not an election year.
Yeah.
But no, he's, and then he.
What kind of doctor?
Microbiologist. And he in the early 70s was saying, we're over prescribing antibiotics. And everyone was like, shut up.
Yeah.
Antibiotics are great. What's the problem?
Yeah.
And he and a few other people, literally a handful, were saying, well, there could be antibiotic resistance.
Sure.
And people would be like, shut up, nerd. And they would shove my dad's head into a toilet and then give all the cattle in the area giant mouthfuls of streptomycin or whatever. And my dad he's in research and still to this day, I don't think he wants me giving out his age, but he still goes into the lab and putters around. Yeah, he goes into the lab working his big project in his life has been trying to figure out how to track worldwide. Is there a way to track worldwide? And I'm sure I'm butchering the essence of what he's trying to do. I'm just trying to give you the basics, but how to track worldwide if there's a resistant bacteria in Chile, and how can we know if it's also showing up in Amsterdam? And what does that mean? And what's the best way to combat it? So my dad started back when they had punch cards. He was trying to work on a computer system.
Like a big IBM.
Yeah, and now he's got this computer network and he's got these young people working for him.
That's a fun fact of history that IBM was sending guys over to help the Nazis with their computers. Do you know that with the punch cards?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we better fact check that. I might get sued. But yeah, I believe that they were over there.
Yeah, if you're just going to toss that stuff out.
Yeah, feel free to slander anyone.
Oh yeah, Dannon's yogurt was actually a pet project of Himmler's. We're just going to start saying stuff.
Oh no.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
So it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to have to go to Harvard, right?
No. Oh,
It's
God,
not.
No.
Did they
no.
not go like, hey, we did it?
No, they did not do that at all, because when both your parents are working and there's 6 kids, there was I'm going to say a healthy amount of I'm not going to say chaos.
Okay.
But
what number are you in there?
I'm 3rd.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So you're a middle child, and
Yeah. So neither of my older brothers went there, and my sisters didn't go there. And then my youngest brother, who's much younger than I am, 40 years younger than I am. I just threw that out for fun to see if anyone's paying attention. He ended up going
so he's like
there.
15, something like that.
Yeah.
Currently. Sophomore
Very
year.
nice. Very nice. Yeah. He's but yeah, it was not, you will go there. I think they were happy to see us go to a college.
Real quick logistical question. Who on earth was raising you guys? Was it the older brothers in charge?
Well, my mom didn't work for a while when I was young. So she took time off to have my brothers and my sisters, and then she went back to work.
Okay.
Just before she had Justin, the last
When everyone was
last
in
child.
school and
Yeah.
whatnot.
So she was around. She was at home.
Were you the person that alleviated tension? Because there's like
you'd have to
there's
get
probably a teenager in the mix and like a terrible 2 in the mix for you.
I remembered I was a highly anxious kid,
Okay.
very anxious, and
What brand of anxiety? Like you're fearful of the future, or
no, I just a free floating. It took me a long time to figure this out. You know what? I kept journals when I was a kid, and they're somewhere, but I don't know where. I've tried to find them and I can't. But there's part of me that doesn't want to find them because I think they were pretty dreary. I think 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I was a pretty intense, anxious kid who.
Did you have a sense of like, I've got to accomplish something
Yes,
right out of the gates?
I did.
Yeah, just genetically.
You know what? I don't understand. I've thought about it a lot, and I've thought about what maybe I was extremely determined, even as a young kid, and I don't know where that comes from. And I have a theory that some people just have that,
Sure,
and it's inside them, and you can put them anywhere. You can put them in Antarctica. But if they're meant to do what they're going to do, they're going to end. If they're meant to be in comedy, they're going to somehow get to Upright Citizens Brigade, and then they're going to get an audition for Saturday Night Live.
a little satellite,
something.
satellite UCB up in Antarctica.
They're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And I mean,
well, isn't you have children? So
Yeah.
I wonder if you've had this experience where, like, my oldest, we have this pole that supports this awning in our backyard, and I was just watching her through a window. So it's not to impress me or anything. She just tried to start scaling it, and she just did it over and over and over again for about 90 minutes until she got to the top. And I
Right.
thought, well, I can't teach her that. She has that. I don't know why she has that. She just won't quit.
and she's gonna be a stripper.
I hope so. I think that's what you take away from it.
Sorry,
That she loves balls.
She's
Determined
obsessed.
stripper.
She's obsessed with working a pole, and I'm sorry.
I overlooked the very obvious thing. I was taking
You
it as
did.
such a positive.
Did she ask for
determined-
tips
Such
during
a
it throughout?
She did ask for tips. Now that I thought she took her shirt off to get more traction on the pole, but now it's all making
you
sense.
see.
Okay.
Was Pour Some Sugar on Me playing? No, there is. You cannot instill that in somebody that's in them or it is not in them.
But the ego, right? The ego, a little bit to acknowledge that or admit that it takes a little bit of the accomplishment away from it. Do you think? Like if you don't diagnose like what the fuel in the tank is, and you go like, well, I guess I was just hardwired to do this, then you feel a little less, proud of yourself.
I think this is a big thing with me is humility. It's a big word for me. I'm get enraged by people that think they are where they are because they completely got themselves there.
Right.
And, I remembered once, I have this analogy where I was living on the East Coast. I think I was working on Saturday Night Live, and I used to sometimes take Amtrak to go visit my parents. And I remember being on an Amtrak train and getting on, and all the seats were taken, and I was standing there, and some of the people that were sitting had a real superior attitude about the fact that they had a seat. And I remember a guy looking annoyed that like, why are all these people standing here? Like, why didn't they just get seats? And I thought, this is a perfect, I got on later than you did. Mm-hmm. You got on earlier and you have a seat. And I've always had a lot of empathy for, I think growing up, the way I grew up and having a lot of anxiety and being a terrible athlete when I was a kid and not quite figuring out what my jam was. Comedy, which was my super weapon, was something that was only known to my really good friends. I was shy.
You weren't a class clown.
It was not and I've always said class clowns rarely make it in comedy. Like Steve Martin was probably not a class clown.
Yeah.
Class clowns die in motel shootouts. The kid that's
I've straddled both lines. Yeah. I was a class clown. I got class clown.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I was, in a lot of those motels where I almost didn't
You've been
make it
shot
here.
at many times and you have returned fire and you've gone out the back.
You say that jokingly.
I guess my point is, I don't know why I have that thing in me that makes me need to do this.
Yeah.
And I've kind of given up trying to figure it out.
But it wasn't because you were trying to break the stress of the house. That wasn't your role per se, was it?
I would say...
Were you trying to beat people to making fun of you first? Like, there's some kind of pretty well-worn past to developing a sense
there
of...
are
I was dyslexic, and so I had to...
And still are.
Yeah, some permanently dyslexic.
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry.
I keep saying, you're really... You're
you
like
put it in the past tense.
Tense police.
Well, I'm sorry. I was dyslexic.
It's like the fifth time you point out my tense is wrong.
Right. He's just He is right.
I'm just keeping you honest.
Yeah.
Someone's got it.
I will say that, yes, I do think that I was aware of some level of tension, and I think there's some misconceptions about my mom didn't go back to work till later in the game. And my dad is working in academic medicine and there's 6 kids. So there's...
Yeah, even if you had the perfect parents in that scenario.
It was... There was some creative chaos there.
And they're not drinking to alleviate... Like if your dad would have came home and had like 3 highballs...
Much better childhood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean,
what you're aiming for is the parent that can hit that sweet spot. You don't want you don't want a sober or an alcoholic. You want the right up the middle.
It's the bewitched dad who comes home and says, make me a stiff one. He has a drink or two, but he never seems intoxicated.
No, but he's so much more tolerant of hearing about everyone's day. He has endless patience now.
Yeah.
Right? Because that slow, subtle buzz is sneaking in. And
so
the voices are quieter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm, I desperately think that my childhood was ruined because my father wasn't a heavy drinker. That's what I'm saying.
That's the takeaway. When we promote this episode, that'll be like kind of the catch line.
Yeah.
The summation. Yeah.
You're not drinking for yourself. You're drinking for your children.
Yeah. But you get to Harvard. You have this crazy compulsion to succeed and you work crazy hard. You have an insane work ethic. That was what I took away from the Stern interview.
At the risk of sounding... you don't want to, I mean, I see it in other people too. Like I see it in someone like Tina Fey. Mm-hmm. Tina Fey, who I have incredible respect for. I look at her and I say, she has an insane work ethic. She has a very hardcore work ethic. And I'm so impressed with her career accomplishments, but I'm also impressed by the fact that she's always seemed to me like someone who has a really strong moral compass and works very, very, very hard. Yeah. And I think she's not an accident. Tina Fey isn't an accident. And I really believe in those things. I think it's like have a good moral compass and work really hard.
There's a very dicey observation to make, but I think you and I could both agree that like Chris Farley, just born like, point a camera at him, put him on a stage, no matter what's happening, or Belushi. There's been, certain people.
Sure.
And then there are people that just broke their fucking back and created. So you didn't come out like Chris Farley.
No.
You were like, I'm going to write. That's a safe spot for me.
You know what it was? I think what it was, there are things you have that you're born with. Mm-hmm. And I very early on could make people laugh. I don't think that's something you can, I'm not funny, but I'm going to work really hard at.
Well, yeah.
I do think what you can do is maximize what you have.
Yeah.
And so long before I was working at it, anything. I mean, for the longest time, even well into college, I didn't think comedy was a profession. I honestly did not think it was a profession. I thought I'm going to probably have to go to law school, or I might go to a school of government. I may be a serious writer. It didn't occur to me until I got on the college humor magazine and saw that other people had turned comedy writing into a career, that the thing I enjoyed most was something that you could do for a living. It's always been funny to me is that people, the minute it was this thing that I worked so hard to do when I was a kid because I had a compulsion to get somewhere. I knew I had to get somewhere, but I didn't know where. Yeah. But I knew I had to get somewhere. And then I get to Harvard, and it was a real arduous journey for me anyway. That's how it felt. Mm-hmm. Other people could say, sure, white guy,
sure,
whose parents went to great colleges. Yeah. Sure, it was really hard. But for me, it felt like a Tolkien-esque adventure with many missteps along the way. But then I get into Harvard, and once I got into comedy, all I've wanted to do is live it down. I hate even talking about it because there's all this baggage that comes with it where people think, oh, well, Harvard guy, huh? And you think, oh, no, if I could rewrite my bio right now and just lose that, I would. Which is so ironic because I worked so hard to get there.
I've had a few people on here who went to Harvard, and I bring this up all the time. A good friend of mine, Christine Kane, she went to Harvard. And I've been with her many times when this college comes up. And every time that she has to say, I went to Harvard, everyone's like, ooh, I mean, they immediately go into this mocking thing. And I was like, what a thing to observe. I would have thought this is something you'd be so proud of your whole life. And it's just a big pain in the ass.
No.
And Mike Schur pointed out, yes, as much as I refuse to bitch about going to Harvard, I will say, you have to try to get around it. You go say, I went to school in Boston. There's all these tricks you guys know.
Yeah.
Most importantly, I don't even care about the Harvard of it, but the Harvard Lampoon. So, and I just saw this for the first time. I didn't realize you guys have this little castle, right? You have a little clubhouse, and there's an area that only you guys have been in.
Yeah.
Is it like Hogwarts? Is there something exciting going on in there, or would it disappoint me? Have you been to the Playboy Mansion?
No. They actually invited me once in the 90s, and I said no. Jesus and they were like, "What do you mean no?" They actually the woman on the line said, "What do you mean no?" And I said, "It's not going to be good if I go. I'm going to be self-conscious." And she kept saying, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Look, if I go, everyone's going to have less fun." And I talked myself out of going to the Playboy Mansion.
Well, I wish he had gone because I went once for a Halloween party. And as I arrive, I'm like, oh, my God, there it is. It's amazing. And there's a game room and everything. And then every time you got closer to something, you're like, oh, that's a really old phone system. Oh, a few of the buttons are broken off. And just slowly you realize the whole thing was just a real rundown shithole.
That is the best, what you just said. Unwittingly, you've stumbled upon. No,
I've fallen ass backwards into something.
You, like Mr. Magoo, you stumbled. Like Clouseau, you tripped and solved the case. That my experience in life has been over and over and over and over again is that if you idolize something, if you idealize something, if you put a place or a person up on a shelf, the best thing you can do is go and experience it. And I'll say it about, look, Harvard's a fine school, but I have not spent my life going, the wonders there. It's a place.
Sure.
It's a place. I've met some really smart people there. I met some really dumb people there.
Right.
They have no magic beans there that they're giving you. And then I had the same experience over and over again in show business.
I feel like the greatest gift in life I've ever been given is to have been given so many of my wildest dreams to recognize, oh, those things won't make me feel different inside. No. As much as I was certain they would. So even even though I know that, I think about you being at SNL in the time that you were there, and I think, God, it must have been magical, but it was.
Well, I'm gonna qualify this. Okay. There are magical moments. There are moments that still to this day, because it's a point in your life. So I'm not going to lie. There are little moments here and there in anyone's life. And I'm sure in your life as well, there are moments you have that stand out that get this sort of golden hue over time. Definitely being that young and going to Saturday Night Live and suddenly being in the room pitching an idea to Steve Martin. I mean, that's one of the amazing things about Saturday Night Live is that Lorne, I don't know where he got this, but I hadn't been in show business that long, but before Saturday Night Live, but the experiences I had were very much you wait out here while we go through the 6 levels and then go talk to the talent. Saturday Night Live, you get to this place, I don't know, I was 24, I think, maybe. And they say, yeah, Steve Martin's in there. Go tell him some ideas.
Because the host, people maybe don't know, right? The host, they spend the week there and they're generally part of the writing process, right?
And they come in. And so you'd go in and there's your idol, your absolute idol.
Was he your idol?
Steve Martin changed my concept of how funny a human being could be.
That holds for me that you're a Steve Martin guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because these things are generational. He did things that I didn't think you were allowed to do. And I'm not talking about like the arrow through the head kind of Steve Martin.
Right.
But his attitude, his completely brash attitude. And then what I love is the intersection of smart and silly.
Yeah.
These 2 circles. And when you can get them close to each other, there's this place where they intersect, this little point, this narrow section where smart and silly come together, and that guy nailed it. And then attached like a 10,000 volt battery to it. I just couldn't believe I was in the same room with him.
Yeah.
And now he tells me I'm his hero.
Is that true?
No.
Okay.
But I kept staring at you to see if
you really did. You held it long enough.
I held it and I stared at you.
Well, you know what I was doing? I was going through in my mind, like, has Conan done something I don't know about? Like, did you save some people that were at sea?
I saved
like
Steve,
a maritime rescue.
Steve Martin and Marty Short were in a dinghy.
Boating accident.
They were in a dinghy, and it was going under, and I was in my yacht.
Yes, as you are on Sundays.
The SS Entitled. And I saved them, yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me now. I think there's and I don't know that you've looked back on your life and actually thought about it this way, but you've done some uniquely brave things, and I don't know if they were what they were motivated out of. I'm curious, but you were at Saturday Night Live for 3 years, and that's a dream job for anyone that went to Harvard and was in the Harvard Lampoon. And then after 3 years, you quit that show.
Yeah, and I didn't have another job at the time.
Right, and this to me seems very inconsistent with someone who's kind of type A and plotting and gets into Harvard. So it's like you're very much taking the safe road so often, and then what was happening? Can I guess?
Yeah.
So you had anxiety. I think you were drawn to writing because you can control that world on that piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're totally powerful and effective on this typewriter. And I don't know. That's what it appeals to performing about me. Is
when do you think I was writing typewriter?
In the 50s. When you started, weren't you writing at the Lampoon?
It was a steam-powered typewriter. No, I'm sorry.
Typeset. You were moving the movable typeset.
When I was etching the blocks to dip in the ink.
But do you think that you're very drawn to control?
Well,
is that something you can control?
Here's what I think. Because I've thought about this a lot. It's the salty and the sweet. It's the yin and the yang. It's the tension between control and lack of control. So there's 2 parts of me. None of us are one thing, but I am exactly 2 things. I desperately want control and craftsmanship, and I desperately want chaos and to be challenged.
Yeah.
And those 2 things are constantly, I mean, it's a struggle because I commit to things and I say I'll do it. And that's the brave part of me. And then it starts to come upon me that I have to perform at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah, fuck that.
And follow President Obama in front of a hostile crowd. And I'm like, why? Yeah. Why did I? And then, sheer panic and then work ethic. let's work really hard all the time to come up with the best jokes.
Yeah, it's almost like you're creating situations you know you'll have to dig your way out of. Yeah, I do a similar thing.
And that's what I do is say yes and know that court disaster, and then this is what I tell young people all the time, you have less to lose than you think.
Yeah.
So I, several times in my career,
that's what blows my mind.
Have said, yes, I'll do that. And I'm scared as I'm saying it.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm insane or have a tumor.
Right.
I'm very aware as I'm saying I will do that this is potentially disastrous and life-ending.
Yeah.
And then I start going to work, getting myself out of the jam.
So similarly, I was going to UCLA, going through the groundlings, and then 3 days a week going on benders. So I was like crazy focused control freak. And then I needed to I needed relief from that.
Right.
It was uncomfortable being that way.
Yeah.
So my hunch is that you're at SNL and you're pretty much doing about as spectacular as you can do at 24 years old. And maybe you're just going, okay, well, I was expecting a certain feeling from all this in that I don't have that feeling and I need to kind of regroup.
Yeah, I think I also was in a relationship that had just ended and wanted a reset. I just wanted a complete reset. So it sounds absurd, but I quit Saturday Night Live, didn't have a job, didn't have a place to stay. My friend Eric found me an apartment that I could stay in on the Upper West Side because the people there were gone for like a month. So I stayed there. I bought a book of Seamus Heaney poetry and walked around New York and sat on benches reading it. And I say it now and I'm ashamed.
Of course.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I walked around New York and read poetry on a bench.
A lot of people saw you and were like, look at that fucking asshole. Go make something.
I literally wrapped a Hustler magazine around the poetry book so people would think I was cooler.
Also, we're not missing you. It's not like you're not blending in.
No, it was
a
bad.
9 foot tall redhead.
I know. It looked like it was bad. It was like Big Bird from Sesame Street was reading Bertolt Brecht or, I was completely lost.
Okay.
And that's when there was an opportunity at The Simpsons and
which they didn't hire much back
They
then.
were not. They were still, I think, pretty much working off the original group.
Right.
And I got extremely lucky because I got in there. Now people are always coming up and saying like, wow, seasons whatever that I was there. I can't remember, 4 or 5. Something.
91 to 93.
Yeah. And they're like, wow, that had very, very little, if nothing to do with me. I hit the sweet spot. It was really nice.
Are you sure? I think you're being...
Not
No, let me
for
tell
me.
you something. Because before you got there, the show was very realistic sitcom cartoon. And while you were there, it transformed into a very surreal show. And I think what people love about the show is its surrealness and its Conan O'Brien-ness. No, but for real, there was a radical shift in the sensibility of the show.
Yeah.
People that worked with you there have said publicly that they believe you would have been the showrunner of that show had you stuck around. So I don't think we can underestimate your significance in that show and the paradigm shift that occurred while you were there. So just take the fucking compliment.
All right,
you're a big
done.
part of why that show is as weird and unique and wonderful. Mike, I'm curious, can you watch that show after you left?
It's funny. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't, not because of any, snobbery or anything or I don't need that anymore. I left to do the late night show and I did nothing but eat, sleep, breathe, the late night show for years and years. That's all I did.
Yeah.
And, you just
didn't watch anything. Would you have had that feeling though? Like I don't enjoy going to see improv shows because I'm an improver. I want to get on the stage and do it. I can't really enjoy. It's like watching other people fuck. I don't really want to do that.
I love to watch other people.
I do
fuck.
too. That was a terrible analogy. Maybe the worst
and wait a
analogy
minute,
I've ever made in my life.
I've watched people fuck with you.
That's true. That's true.
You and I have walked through Hancock Park, and we have looked for people who are having sex.
There are men
and when we look in the window and we watch them. You and I have done that countless times.
We have.
And you have said, this is the best moment of my life every time we do it.
I even said I like this more than fucking because I have no anxiety about performing.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It was the worst
whatever.
But I just wonder if you had watched that show, you would have felt a sense of like missing out. Like, oh, that would have been fun to.
No, I don't have any. I don't care how this sounds. This is just the truth. I'm someone who would rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. Mm-hmm. So very much for me, I always wanted to make my thing.
Sure.
And
you need a real good dose of arrogance to make it in this business, right?
Well, and guess what? Call it what you want. But the whole time I was at The Simpsons, and as much as I love that show, and I have rediscovered The Simpsons through my son, Beckett, because he started about a year ago watching The Simpsons and loving it and worked his way starting from the beginning, then hit my episodes and was like, hey, I mean, that's actually the first time I've seen him have like a glint in his eye of the old man had a fastball once.
Yeah.
But
no one gets that. You should feel
it didn't last long. But I rediscovered the show and have been watching them and just skipping around watching all these episodes with him and been blown away. How, I mean, shows from years and years and years after I was there and being blown away by the creativity and laughing out loud at the cleverness of the jokes. And just, I mean, I'm stunned that the crew at The Simpsons has been able to keep it going.
To maintain that
level. To maintain that is unheard of.
Because even Saturday Night Live, it goes through these lulls. It's like they rediscover, I
think one of the things about The Simpsons that helps is that the reference point's always the same. Whereas at Saturday Night Live,
the cast changes.
Cast changes. And so you can completely, it's like if you don't check in with your baseball team for like 3 seasons, you tune in, it's all different people.
Yes.
Whereas The Simpsons, you are anchored with, there's Marge, there's Lisa, there's Homer, there's Bart, you're locked in. And I think that makes it a completely different situation. But I wanted to make my thing. I wanted to make something that stank of Conan and that was Conan-y. And that is probably, would call it whatever you want, narcissism, ego, whatever you want to call it. But that was my compulsion was I remembered once when I used to get up on stage at the Groundlings and do stuff, and I would act out one of my sketches at the Groundlings. I wasn't getting paid.
You're not making. You were paying.
Yeah, you're paying. You're paying to be there.
Yeah, it's pay to play.
And I'm paying money to be up on this stage. And when it was going well, I was much happier than I was as part of a large institution that was making something that someone else invented. Yeah. As much as I admired that thing. Yeah. I have incredible respect for
it's a very writing on a TV show is very collaborative. There's compromises, there's a network note pass, there's legal, there's all these things that you could feel like are just slowly taking the edges off of the thing you originally want to do. So it just inherently has a lot of compromise built into it. So yeah, you long to just go, fuck, I want to try my exact thing.
Yeah, I want to do a thing where you are getting a mainline shot of Conan. Right? And the fact that I'm even describing this using my name in the third person
is problematic.
Is very problematic. And I acknowledge that. I'm aware of that. But that's what I wanted.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Here's the second time that I think you're crazy. You were on The Simpsons. That was going well. I'm sure they cherish you. I'm sure you were making a lot of money for a young guy. And this opportunity came up. Letterman was leaving, and Lauren approached you to be a producer on The Replacement, whoever that would be.
I was not thrilled with being a producer on something where there was no talent signed up.
Yeah.
So I actually parted company. I said, like, I don't want to do that. And I went my way and assumed that I would just be reading soon about somebody else being the host of Late Night.
Right.
And I guess they weren't seeing the person that they wanted, or they couldn't find they didn't know. And then I think Lorne was talking to Gavin Pallone, and Gavin said, "Hey, look, Conan could probably do it." And Lorne was like, "Do you think Conan could do it?" And
wasn't Gavin he was
my agent?
Yeah, he was, right? Because you often see agents take a tremendous amount of credit for things they had nothing to do. But in this case, this is one of the good stories.
Yeah, Gavin had seen me do stuff, and I think Lorne had also. I think Jim Downey was always a big booster of mine at Saturday Night Live, and I think I used to perform for the writers.
Well, I was going to say you, and this was kind of your role, I've been told, lore has it. So when you're pitching stories or bits or jokes, you would often act them out.
Yeah.
And so there's an inherent...
That's actually how I wrote, is I wouldn't sit down with a piece of paper and write. I would do things for my friends. I remembered once I was out with, I was out in Midtown Manhattan. We were just walking around with Robert Smigel, Bob Odenkirk, Greg Daniels, and this attractive girl started to go by. And I wasn't doing it so they could hear me, but I'd be like, well, she's looking pretty sweet. And, and then the girl would walk by and I'd go, and my penis is too small and my head is too fat. And they just started laughing. And then I kept doing it. Those were the kind of things I would just say, very confident on the approach, but then it just cracked me up that with the same confidence listing the reasons why she passed me by. They were like, that's just right. Let's write that up. And then we all wrote it up together. And then Tom Hanks did it and we called it The Girl Watchers. And I remember at the time, Al Franken just saying like, how did you think of this? And I was like, I don't know. I was just doing it.
Right.
My brother Luke said something that meant a lot to me. A couple of weeks ago, it was the 25 years to the day that we had started the Late Night show. It was September 13th, 2018. And my brother Luke just posted this thing on Facebook. He said, people keep saying to me, I can't believe your brother's been doing a show for 25 years. And he said, I've been telling all of them he's been doing that show his entire life. And that is exactly true.
Right.
Which is, I always was doing a show. And I was constantly doing a show if you sent me to camp up in New Hampshire, I was doing a show in the cabin for kids. I was always doing a show and I did it compulsively. It wasn't a plan. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was shy. This is hard to explain. I was shy, but then when little funny ideas would come to me and I would work up the nerve to sometimes do them in front of other people and I'd get a laugh, but then I'd retreat again. I was not brazen. I was not like, hey, everybody, check me out.
Yeah.
But
that would have earned you the rare distinction of class clown.
Yes, class clown. And we all know that.
I know it became obvious how jealous you are of class clowns earlier in this conversation. Class
clowns are either killed in a motel shootout or they end up above a garage doing a podcast. Either way, it's a sorry end. Sorry end.
So Gavin says, why don't you try it?
I think, and let me just be really clear. There's probably documents somewhere that exactly say what happened because this has all turned into lore to some regard. But the broad strokes are, Lorne says to me, would you be interested in, auditioning?
And
I thought, yeah, I'd audition.
This is one of those times you said yes and then
I remembered
shit your pants.
I remembered thinking, could this really happen? I mean, I'm 29. They're replacing the biggest star on television.
Yeah.
I have no on-camera experience.
You're reading books in the park.
I'm reading books in the park. Yeah. I'm not camera ready in so many ways. I'm not ready in any way. And did
that help actually calm your...
No, it was...
Because it helps me sometimes when I go in and I go, I'll never get this. I'm at my best when I think I can't get something.
I misunderstood. Yes. If you watch my audition, I'm incredibly relaxed in my audition because I thought this isn't going to happen.
Right. That's liberating.
And then I got very scared after the audition because everyone had kind of a, wow, that was good vibe. And I was retroactively frightened. I was frightened. I was like, wait a minute, what did I just do?
Yeah.
You just submitted a very good application.
You just
for
wrote
this
a
job.
check your ass can't cash.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I did it again because then there was a couple of weeks went by where I think NBC was saying, well, we can't give it to this kid. And so they actually went out and they talked to Gary Shandling. And then I actually got a call, and Lisa Kudrow can back this up because she was in the car with me at the time, but I got a call and I was in my car, and I had like one of those early 90s cell phones that was larger than the car itself. Mm-hmm. And the phone rang, and Lauren said, well, it's not happening. They're going to get some, you're going to get something out of this, but you're not going to get 12:30 because that's going to go to Shandling. And then I hung up the phone, and then I remember Lisa saying, so I guess that's not happening. And I said, I don't think Shandling's not going to do that. Doesn't make sense to me. Because he was doing the Larry Sanders show, and he was doing this brilliant thing that mocked the idea of doing a show. And I thought, why would he give that up to get in there and grind it out every day for an hour? I don't see
very
who would
upside.
do that who didn't have to do it. And then they brought me in for some meeting at NBC, and I remembered something got into me. And I just, Robert Smigel and I had been talking a lot about what the show after Letterman should be. And I got into this meeting, and half of me, like I said, there's a duality, but half of me wanted to say, guys, you're right. This is a mistake. And I'm just going to go back to The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. And I got
a great car phone.
I got a great car phone.
Everything's going
and
just Lisa Kudrow's in the car.
Driving a Ford Taurus SHO, and it's all going my way. And this is going to be great. But this other half took over when I got in that meeting. And I said, okay, here's what the show needs to be. Letterman did irony. We have to go past that. He would use your Larry Bud Melmans and your Chris Elliott's, and they would do sort of a comment on performing. We're going to cut to really good improvisers in the crowd who are going to really commit to a bit. I'm not going to wink at the camera. If someone's supposed to be my sister in the audience, I'm going to really play that she is my sister in the audience, even if it's Amy Poehler. We'll have cartoons. There'll be music. There'll be a Pee Wee Herman sort of sensibility to it. All this stuff came out of me, and I swear to God, this is never talked about. But in that meeting, suddenly I was in a room with people that didn't know what to do, and there was a 29-year-old in the room saying, this is what we're doing. I left that meeting, and I remember talking to Lisa saying, I think I just talked myself into that job. Why the fuck did I do that?
Again, you wrote an even bigger check.
Yeah, an even bigger check that I couldn't cash.
But decisiveness is attractive, right? I mean, this is how some people have explained a lot of Trump's appeal to people is right or wrong. He is not wavering. He's got an exact point of view, right? So you went in there with they bought into the fact that you knew what you wanted to do, and that's comforting.
If we take anything from this interview, it's that my similarity to Trump
is almost indistinguishable. You guys,
I am the Trump of comedy. And
that's
I think
what
that's what we're taking away.
That's what what we all say when you're not around.
I'm very
the Donald of comedy.
Look, I'm winning.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Yeah, quick question.
Going back to what you said about doing this show your whole life, is it exhausting? Are you at any point like, I'm mentally done doing this show?
The answer is yes, but it's not the show. I know what you're asking, and the answer is yes. I am mentally exhausted with myself sometimes.
Having to be that.
Well, also just, I'll say it out loud. I verbalize a lot of things. Like my wife will hear me at night go into the bathroom, to pee or something, or she'll hear me brushing my teeth, and I'll be like, "You fucking idiot!" And that's what you do. And she'll be like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "No, I just," and it's I'm very vocal about. It's not Tourette's. I know that's a real thing, and I don't have Tourette's. But I blur it out. Oh, come on, what the fuck? What are we doing? What did you do? And people who don't know think that someone came in through the window and I'm fighting them off because they have an X-Acto blade and I'm fighting them. And they don't know that I'm super intense. And I think back and visualize mistakes I made in the day or even a mistake I made 15 years ago. And I blurt out, the disappointment that I did that. And it gets really tiring. So I have many times what I say at work all the time, and you can ask anyone who works with me, I'll go on this long riff and people will be laughing. And then I'll say, I'd like to go to the hospital now. and it's this recurring thing with me is, this is going to sound really crazy, but I've had this fantasy for years where people listening may not know this, but there was this old tradition in show business back in the 40s and 50s and 30s where entertainers would go to the hospital for a while because of exhaustion. And so Jackie Gleason would be checked into a hospital in Miami or something, and one of the biggest performers of his day, and he'd be in the hospital for a few weeks. And there was no medical care going on. And I've always had this thought of, I'd like the word to go out that Conan O'Brien he's at Cedars-Sinai and he's resting. That's all it's going to say is he's resting. And then what happens is I'm there and I have this whole thing worked out in my head. I'm not sick. I have a nice suite. Mm-hmm. There's no one else in my room. I've got a big TV. Yeah. But people come, Dax comes, and maybe Adam Sandler drops in. Mm-hmm. Maybe Will Ferrell stops by. Oh, yeah. We chat, we laugh. Maybe we watch a movie. We cross the street. We go to Jerry's Deli.
They shut it down. But this happened a few years ago.
This is my old.
This is your tense. You fucked up a tense. Sorry, continue.
Oh, you know what? You shouldn't have snapped at me. And you know what? You were wrong to snap at me, and I was wrong to snap at you. But and I'm in there for a couple of weeks. And what happens is people are visiting, and then at some point, a nurse comes in and goes, Mr. O'Brien needs to rest. And everyone's politely ushered out. Now, I'm not wearing hospital garb. I'm wearing jeans, but like really nice Ugg slippers and a t-shirt, and I'm comfortable. And then she gives me a pill, and I get kind of sleepy. And I go to sleep for 2 hours, and then I wake up, and then some really nice food is brought in, not the hospital food.
No, sure.
You know, and then that's about a 3-week stay.
Yeah.
There was a joke similar to that in Bad Moms where Kristen's character, she fantasized about being in a car accident, just bad enough that you'd be in the hospital for like a week.
Oh.
You just, to relax.
You know, it's weird you mention that because exactly after I got the late night show, the whole world is like, who the fuck is this guy? What's a Conan O'Brien? Mm-hmm. Who is he? They were mad at NBC anyway because they felt that Letterman had been screwed over. And then the quote gang that can't shoot straight went and found this guy. Oh, and everyone's just salivating, and it was a nightmare. And I remember, it's so funny you say that, thinking, if I was in a car accident, but I wasn't killed, but I was fucked up just enough, they would get someone else to fill in for me, and it wouldn't be my fault.
Yes. By the way, I'm so often in life just looking for a way out of anything that it won't be my fault.
Yes.
Just trying to create some kind of dynamic. That's how I tried to get out of some relationships and stuff. I just wanted to like guilt-free walk away from something.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't be seen as a failure. Did you love Letterman? Was that your guy?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is going to sound crazy. It's going to sound like, no, you're making that up after the fact. But I used to look at him when I was at Saturday Night Live. People used to say, you probably as a wannabe performer wanted to do what they were doing. And I would say, no, I never looked at Dana Carvey or Phil Hartman or Mike Myers and said, that should be me. I knew that they did a different thing. Mm-hmm. And then I watched Dave and I thought, that's his voice. Right. And he is the center spoke of a world that revolves around his voice. Mm-hmm. And I'm not anything like him. Mm-hmm. I'm very unlike him. There are no similarities.
There are, but go ahead.
Well, there are probably some similarities, but
you guys are both smart first.
Yeah, but I'm I'm goofy. I'm physical. There's a bunch of things about me that, and he has this whole skill set that I could never have in a million years. But I looked at what he was doing and I thought that resonates with me. And I didn't for a second think, oh, I'm as good. I never thought that. I thought what he's doing, where he has this little world where you can create, where you can sustain a certain level of madness, and you have your people that emanate out from your vision. That was resonated with me, and so I would watch him in college. Mm-hmm. I started watching the morning show when I was in high school, and then I watched him in college, and I really admired him and thought like, he was my first kind of major comedy crush, I think. But your show started in 93 and I was a senior in high school in 93. Like this is kind of when you get into late night, I think. And right out of the gates, like when I read stuff that it was some journey for you to get the show, what it became and all that, I'm completely unaware of that. I remember watching you because I loved Letterman. It was a big deal when he left. I remember watching his first show on CBS or whatever network he went to. Like I was on a road trip, living in my car for 6 months. I figured out how to get in someone's living room to watch that first. Right, it was a big deal. I was super into it. In your show, I was immediately into your show. I fucking loved what you did right out of the gates. I thought you were spectacular. I think you, like what you set out to do, like, okay, Letterman went this far. I've got to now kind of go this far. I was in from the get-go. I loved the show. I was so excited to be on your show. And this is one of these funny real-life experiences where often when you're in AA, you do your 9th step and you make amends to people. And I had the opportunity on like a commercial break on your show to apologize for my first appearance on your show. And what often happens when you make an amends, it's not a big deal to the other person. Right. Which was our case. Yes. So my thing was I did coke and I blacked out and I was woken up by security in the hotel room and my publicist. And I was with a stranger and one of us had peed the bed. And then I rushed to your show and I had done, poor Dan Ferguson, who I love so much and you do too. I had done the pre-interview in a blackout. I don't remember anything. I get to your show. I come out on stage. There had been an animal wrangler out before me. And then my joke when I get out there is you should get separate green rooms for the animals and the guests because I was bit by a snake. And then I fall over the chair and I break the table of your show. Right. This is the first time I'm on your show. And then you start leading me down the path that I'm supposed to be on. I don't know what you're talking about. You're like, Dax, that's a weird name. And I'm like, the way you're looking at me, I'm thinking, I must have a story about my own name that I can't remember right now. And the whole interview was like that. Guess what? I got good news for you. And this isn't a joke. We are coming out with all of the episodes in high resolution, high def. Oh, seriously, I think in January. And so anyone who wants to see episode. Well, what's funny is I've told the story publicly. And again, my perspective is so much different than if you're just watching the show. Like I do fine on my, I don't know what I'm talking about. And you're frustrated, I'm sure. And I'm not telling any of the stories, but it's mildly entertaining. No one would really know watching it. Yeah. But from your point of view, you've got like 4 questions in front of you. And I don't know the answers to any 4 of the questions. And I broke the table. Right. And so regardless, I wasn't invited back, or many times I tried to get back on the show and the bookers would never have me. And then Tom Arnold called and pled to somebody and said, he's been sober for a while. And they let me back on one more time. And then I did okay. And then I've been back a bunch of times. But anyways, during the commercial break, I said to you, hey man, I just really want to say sorry that I had, what's so funny is that all I wanted was to be on your show. I've been like working towards getting on your show. And that's how I prepare to be on your show is I go do drugs. And I say, I'm so sorry I did that. And you go, I don't know, you wouldn't remember this. You go, oh, you wouldn't even make the top 10. Oh, disasters we've had. No. I think that's the other thing is in your mind, it was this huge embarrassment. But again, there's nothing like the volume business of late night television. which is and just
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
And now I've done over 4,000 hours.
Oh my
And then you
God.
multiply that by 3 people a night. What I always respect and honor is when people, there are people that consistently don't try, and there are people that consistently come on and sort of disrespect the form.
Mm-hmm.
And then at a certain point, and it's not because they have a drug addiction
Right.
or an alcohol addiction, they just do that. And then you lose patience with those people.
Sure.
But
Well, they're probably scared, and then they go, I'd rather act like I'm too cool for this than to get caught trying and failing. Maybe is that the...
yes, there's a...
You want to be empathetic, I
I've
guess.
noticed over the years, time and time again, that it's very rare when an actor from the UK, Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales will come on the show and not be a good storyteller. It's part of the tradition of being an English actor. Now the exception, I'm sure, proves the rule, and there are people that are bad at it. But I'm always blown away by the fact that guests from the UK, they stress somewhere, or it's something in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it, a lot of the great actors from the United Kingdom, like a Richard Burton, was a terrific storyteller, or a Sir
Right.
Richard Harris, or a Peter O'Toole. There's this tradition that these guys, and then you look at...
They can hold your attention.
They hold your attention, and they tell you a tale.
Right.
And they spin a yarn, and
It has a 3-act structure.
and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've always said when guys like that, when I've encountered the equivalent of that on my show, and I got to talk to Richard Harris, and I got to talk to some of these people over the years, I always told them in the commercial break, man, James Dean ruined actors for American talk shows, because James Dean and Marlon Brando, the brooding, mumbling, I have to do this.
It's almost like if they're funny and silly on that show, they won't ever be taken serious again as an actor.
Yes. Also, it's just the tail wagging the dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's if I'm difficult, then I must be a genius.
Yeah.
No, be a genius first. And then if the side effect is you're difficult, we'll accept it.
Right.
But don't be difficult
In the
hopes that maybe you're a genius.
Yeah, the foundation.
And this will be one part of that piece of pie that you need to construct.
But when you said you don't even make the top 10, is there can you think of one or two where the guest was just annihilated and you thought, how am I going to navigate this, or am I going to have to call?
We're going to need help on this. Because I'm blanking on his name. The director of The Bad Lieutenant.
Herzog?
No, it was not Herzog. Abel Ferrar.
Abel Ferrar.
Abel Ferrar, just to put you at ease.
Okay.
Abel Ferrar was a eccentric director, who, and I think a brilliant guy, got booked on our show, and he's a wild eccentric, and his segment producer has been with me since the beginning. Frank Smiley was in charge of him, and he fled during the show. Before his segment, he ran away, got on the elevator, and was out on the street running away. And Frank gave chase.
Oh my goodness!
And grabbed him, and I think he may have gave chase. And no one has said gave chase.
I'm so happy
since the Lincoln assassination. One corporal gave chase, but Booth escaped. So Frank caught him.
Okay,
led him back. Made him, pushing him, got him backstage. He came on camera against his will.
Okay, so he's like captive.
And then came out and I think started yelling at me.
Oh my goodness.
And this is, I mean, look it up. But this is.
Do you think he was intoxicated? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure. Or if not, he should have been. And it was entertaining. I think I remembered it being kind of like if you ate 15 cloves of garlic, you wouldn't say that was a great experience, but you'd remember it.
Right.
It was what we call compel-o-vision.
Yeah.
But there have been moments like that where there have been people that came out that would give yes, no answers and not even look at me. Abel Ferrar.
Wait, would you ever be in hair and makeup and someone coming, hey, Conan, so, Mike, your first guest, he's pretty drunk and he's drinking in the green room. Like, would you ever get a heads up? Like,
I get a heads
storm brewing?
I get a heads up that someone that a cast member on a certain show where everyone's trapped on an island has had way too much to drink.
Okay.
And comes out and you can smell it.
Oh, wow.
And
do you
they think they're funnier. All they do is laugh at the things they say, and the pauses they take are way too long. But in their mind, they're killing it.
Right, they're razor
And then
sharp.
their publicist tells them you killed it.
Absolutely. That's what you're paying them to do.
Yeah.
Is there any moment when they're hammered, when that's happened, where you thought, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this? Like, this could be... Or is that really your nature? You're always the butt of your jokes. Letterman was very good at being a dick, but you loved him.
Yeah.
He could annihilate the right people. He always chose well who he was going to pick on.
Yes.
And it always was great. And somehow he could do that. But yeah, that's just not your brain.
That is not, well, it's not even a choice. I mean, I'd love to say it's a moral choice, but it's not. It's just not an arrow in my quiver. Like I don't have that. It's funny because there's a Conan that hosts the show behind the scenes that I can really make the writers howl laughing, and it's mean.
Oh, sure.
It's really mean, and sort of sometimes they can't. They're like they cover their mouths because they can't believe I'm being. So I have it in me.
You need a safe place. Seinfeld talks about this on Stern a couple different times. He's got a buddy he calls every morning. And he's like, you need the one buddy you can call up and say the worst things ever that you would never say in public.
Yeah.
Like you need to kind of flush the system a little bit.
I have a game I play called What's the Worst Thing I Could Do? And
I love that game.
I'm constantly thinking of, in this moment, what would be the thing that would really end my career? And I do it in great detail. And I do it sometimes at moments of national tragedy where I think, what if I tried to promote my show during this national tragedy? And no, it's just one of those things. I can spin out in great detail these horrific stories where I'm at the center of it doing the worst. And I do this all the time. I go into the booking department. Paula Davis always has the tabloids there, and I pick it up and I very convincingly open it up and I go, why do you have this tabloid out if I'm in it? And she'll go, oh my God, I didn't know. And I'll be like, and then I'll start to read a fake story and I'll narrate it without stopping. And it's like Conan O'Brien, the carrot-topped quipster, and a late-night luminary in quotes, entered the so-and-so restaurant in Los Angeles and said, the king is here loudly. Please, sir. Sit down. You're upsetting the guests. Said a boy in a wheelchair. Quiet, wheelie, said O'Brien, shoving the wheelchair over. How dare you hurt that boy? Cried an older woman. If you were 50 years younger, you'd be sort of attractive, snarled the late night brick-topped, and I do it without, and everyone's laughing, but it's this complete chance for me to create a world where I'm the biggest asshole in the world.
Listen,
and it always ends up with me loudly shit my pants in the restaurant. I'm escorted out. I hit a nun in the eye, and then and say she'll be fine. She's a bitch, whatever. Craziness, absolute madness.
I played the exact same game for 6 years on Parenthood, and it was basically I would create a sentence you have to say. They've asked you to present at the Academy Awards, and here's the sentence you have to say. And I want to know what what the price tag is because every sentence I create, you're done. That's the last sentence you'll ever say in public.
That's the end of your career.
And there's something so appealing about doing that, and just something about going, okay, well, that's over.
Well,
now
also,
I can stop obsessing about this whole thing because I've ended it.
Now I'm done, and now I get to go and teach literature at a small college in Maine.
That's right. You've engineered your departure.
I'm done. I figured it out.
Okay, well, listen, you've been very generous with your time.
Have I, though?
You really have. The only other thing I want to say that I just want to commend you because my wife has always been very brave in doing this, and I think it's so helpful to so many people. She's always been very honest about having depression, about having medication.
Yeah.
And I think it's really relevant because, you know, as I look up to you and I recognize the crazy work ethic, I also recognize that the illness can be a part of the process.
Yeah.
And it's so scary to disconnect yourself from this thing that's worked. I mean, I can only compare it to myself, which is being an addict, like part of my, and suffering. I write, my motivation is you're a piece of shit, failure, lazy scumbag. And if you don't do this, you're that. You know, like I motivate myself by this self-hatred and self-loathing. And I just aspire, and I've made progress, but I want to work from a place that's different. And I think it's possible, but it's so scary, isn't it?
Well, you know, my dad, who's a very smart, thoughtful guy, and who's been sort of watching me now for 55 years, my dad said to me, I think I was just a couple of years into the late night show, and he had watched every episode, and he called me up once, and he said, I see now. I see. And I said, what do you see? And he said, you're making your living off of something that should be treated. And he wasn't, he's making a joke.
Sure.
But it's also not a joke. And
as many of the great jokes are.
Yeah, that's all the great jokks are just the truth. That the highs are very high of getting to be funny in front of people, and then the lows and the anxiety and the blackness is just
commensurate.
Awful. And so it's really funny because the biggest thing I was afraid of, and I would talk to people, I used to think, I need this, I need to be unhappy to be funny. And Andy Richter,
the great Andy Richter,
who is one of the funniest people I've ever met and ever will meet. I talked to him because I really was sensing I need to get help, but I don't want to take something because then what if I can't do this anymore? And Andy said, you might find that it's easier to be funny. You might find that this has actually been getting in the way.
Oh yeah. Wow.
And that was a huge, I mean, I owe Andy for saying that because he was encouraging me. And, but yeah, when I went and got, I went and saw a psychopharmacologist and had a long interview. And I kept saying, I'm not depressed. I'm just anxious. And she said, do you realize that anxiety is a form of depression?
Right.
And I said, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I was like, my hand was shaking when she handed me the, prescription note. It was shaking. Like, I don't want to deal with this, and I don't want to go into CVS and get this. And I remember thinking, what if someone sees me getting, like, what?
Well, also, doesn't it immediately in that moment transform from a mood swing to a condition, or like a permanent state that you will have to treat?
Yeah. And then you realize that it doesn't. I'm not on. I'm on.
You're on lithium. I think we can tell everyone.
Powerful. I'm having a lithium drip. Too bad we're not videotaping this.
But isn't it funny, even within people who will acknowledge, yeah, I'm on this, then there's still yet a tiny compulsion to go, but I'm not on a ton. It's all weird, right?
The whole thing is
stupid that there would be any shame.
It's, for me, it's good old East Coast. And it exists many places, but my strain of it is East Coast, Catholic, Irish, do your job, don't whine, shut the fuck up.
Don't be a baby.
And don't be a baby. And, you get to a point where it's like, yeah, but going out every day and doing an hour in front of people and having to be on from in that hour, and then plus some fucker wants you to do his podcast.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
and you don't like him.
Well, I'm
and you
doing
don't wanna
yours.
do
Let's
it.
be fair.
Oh,
You're
do I have a
launching-
podcast?
You're launching a podcast.
Hey, let's talk about that.
I would love to. You're launching a podcast. And what would be what I've observed from the outside in your life is that, and maybe it's correlated to getting medicated and feeling maybe a little more calmness. You seem to be now taking your career in a direction that's more just self-fulfillment.
Yes.
Like you travel now, you've decided.
Yeah. I do
your show's
things-
going to change.
Yes, we're going from an hour to a half hour, and it's totally because I wanted to focus on let's do the stuff that I really love, and
Yeah.
let's not do the stuff that I used to love, but I don't love as much anymore.
Yeah.
And so let's do a half hour show. My analogy is a really good restaurant. You go in and they're serving what's the best catch of the day. What's the, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
What are we really thinking is funny today? What do we really want to do today rather than we got to fill?
Yes.
These shows were invented in the 40s, late 40s to fill time.
Right.
And I think a lot of the tropes from that era still exist when no one needs to fill time anymore because there's hundreds and hundreds thousands of late night shows. And so the old days, they're literally filling time. And there are things that I was doing on my show. Well, you got to have that second guest. All right, folks, we're back. And I got a third guest because, well, no, why? It doesn't make sense. So we're doing that. And then it occurred to me that all these years that I've been on the air, and to an observer like either one of you, you'd think, oh, Conan meets all these people and he's friends with them.
Right.
And that's a common misconception is people are always saying, hey, you're good friends with these people. And I realized I'm friends with very few of them. Most of the people that come to my Christmas party are people that work for me.
Like Mr. Burns.
They're getting a check from me. And I think they like working for me. And I like to think I'm a good boss. But so I thought it'd be fun to do a podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, where I talk to people about why aren't we, like, for example, I could say to you, Dax, like, we're not really friends. No. We are friendly, but we're not really friends.
No, but I can tell you from my perspective, I definitely thought over the years as I've come on your show, like, oh, I get along with you. Great. You have zero interest in hanging out with me.
That's not true.
I would have hung out with you in a heartbeat. I know it's not true because you got my email and you emailed me.
Yeah, I emailed you.
Yes.
And what did you do?
Emailed you back.
Yeah. And then what happened?
We hung out once in Santa Barbara. We let's just be honest. We do have a geographical challenge. We're on opposite sides of Los Angeles.
But we did have a dinner date lined up.
We did, and I fucked that up.
And excuse me, who fucked it up?
I did.
Yeah, you blew it up.
I did.
And then you said we'll do it another time.
Yeah, and we're going
to. Yeah,
we 100%
that was months ago. Listen. Now I know you're. All I'm saying is this is the point. Mm-hmm. The point of my podcast is getting a chance to say, Dax, you made a dinner date with me.
That's right.
I cleared my schedule. Mm-hmm. Then day of, you canceled.
Well, I don't think it was
you canceled.
Well,
then
what's great is when I come on your podcast, I'll have got the emails and I'll bring them and I'll out you to be a liar. I would never cancel day of. How dare you in my attic? Fuck you, Conan O'Brien. It was definitely a few days.
You're going to go on record and say a few days?
Yeah.
You want to go on record and say a few days?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Never.
This is great. Okay, listen, all you have to do, if you anywhere where you can get a podcast, you can sign up for this now. It's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and
I'm coming on very soon.
You're gonna good tease,
and you are going to hear the truth.
It'll be revealed.
Of why Dax and I didn't have that dinner. And you know what? One of us is lying.
That's for certain, or both of us. Also an option.
In this town, that would be the likely option.
That would be the likely option. Well, I from the bottom of my heart, I have a deep desire to be friends because we're history nerds.
Good. Love it.
And you're learning to ride a motorcycle?
I've been riding a motorcycle for several years. I
didn't say that correctly.
Learning sounds like I have training wheels.
It does.
Do they have training wheels for motorcycles?
That was an emasculating way to say
You emasculated me.
You're newly into motorcycles, I guess.
I have a deal with my wife and with myself. I have certain rules. I only ride it in the house. In a tight circle.
That's great.
But it's really fun.
So listen, I can't wait to come on your podcast, which is Conan Needs a Friend.
Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Yeah. Available everywhere podcasts are.
And I want to be first in line to be one of those friends. And I'm going to this is my pledge, regardless of how it goes on that episode.
It's going to go very well.
For you. You're gonna win, you think. You think I canceled day of. Impossible. But we'll find out. And look at Monica's
I'm
nervous.
on Team Conan for this.
Oh, geez.
What I'm going to say is the idea that you canceled several days in advance. No.
Abject lie.
Abject lie.
Okay.
That's a desperate man.
Do you know why? The excuse he gave?
It was about work. He said he had to work late that night.
Can you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty legit
fishy.
excuse, by the way. Pretty
Fishy.
fucking legit excuse. I didn't
We'll see.
all right. Well, we're gonna find out.
It was Christmas Day. I'm working pretty late tonight.
Yeah. If we can figure out a way to be friends where work's involved, it's a no-brainer. We'll be able to do it.
Okay.
Can Rob and I be your friend too?
That's not happening.
Great.
Real good.
Noted.
Being
Well,
honest.
Conan, I love you. I really have always had. I think I've had definitely my funnest talk show times on your show.
I'm glad. I like to be with people who like to play. And that is the joy of, over the years of just, it's so fun when this is work, something's wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But, and sometimes it has to be, but
if you can relax and breathe and be present and experiencing it, it's pretty spectacular.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I adore you, and I can't wait to be on your podcast.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And let's talk again soon.
Great. I peed my pants about 40 minutes ago. I don't know if you did. You have a tiny bladder? I got a disproportionate bladder.
Really? That means other things are disproportionate.
I have a micro penis, if that's what you're getting at. Yeah.
Not sure I believe that.
Yeah. All right. And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman. Very few people are going to get this song, Monica, because it was a barely seen movie from my youth. So I can't even imagine if you're under 43, this will ring any bells. But I'm going to honor, currently we have a movie in the marketplace about Freddie Mercury.
That's true.
And Freddie Mercury did a song, an original song for a Flash Gordon movie in the 80s, maybe even late 70s.
Okay.
And I'm now going to replace that song and make it our song. You ready?
Yep.
Checks. She is the ruler of the universe. Do, do, do. Facts, 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 facts. She is the ruler of the universe. Do, 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 do. You can imagine what was said instead of facts. Flash.
Oh.
He is the ruler of the universe. Do, do.
Oh, cool.
And that's virtually all the lyrics in the song.
And was it a hit?
No, but it was repeated over and over again throughout the movie. And as a 7-year-old boy, I loved it.
Yeah, it sounds.
Anthemic?
Yeah, it does.
Like a call to action.
It does. It does.
Were there any juicy facts in Conan O'Brien?
Yes, there were some facts. You said that states without lane splitting have a high percentage of motorcycle fatalities coming from rear ending, which is why you are condoning lane splitting.
Pro lane splitting.
I didn't really find any numbers about the fatalities and the rear endings and stuff, but the president and CEO of the American Motorcyclists Association says lane splitting keeps riders safer by eliminating their exposure to rear end collisions, and it helps ease congestion by effectively removing motorcycles from the traffic lanes. So that is the defense.
And did I say in the episode how it started? I probably did. Of why we even have it in California and nowhere else. Because motorcycles up until the 80s were all air cooled. And so they needed to keep moving or they would overheat. And there was all these motorcycles broken down in the middle of traffic, causing further traffic issues, or on the side of the road where they were a safety hazard. So they decided, well, we just got to keep these things moving so they don't overheat.
I see. That makes sense. But why only California?
Because it's so hot here and the traffic was so bad. Motorcycles are sitting.
What about Florida?
Well, again, I think, I've been to places where, for me, I rode once my old Harley through Denver, and you can't lane split there, and it was air cooled, and I had a passenger, and it was 100, and I was really concerned, and it started knocking a little bit, like it was overheating.
Ooh.
And then I thought, their traffic's probably new relative to LA's traffic.
Sure.
The Denver traffic issue probably, came about in the 80s or 90s, and then most motorcycles were water cooled. So it probably wasn't a huge issue that they had to confront.
Interesting.
Like our home state.
Oh. Conan joked that you've been riding motorcycles since you were 2, and you came out of the womb on one.
Okay.
So when did you start
Did you
riding?
ask my mother if a motorcycle had passed through her canal?
I felt confident that was not the case. So no, I guess I didn't do my due diligence, but I'm probably right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So when did you start riding motorcycles?
Well, my brother had a YZ80 that he taught me how to ride on in our yard on Terra Road or street in our neighborhood when I was 6 years old. He taught me how to use the clutch and the gears. I crashed several times. He ran next to me. He was trying to be a good dad.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, but when you're 11, you're teaching a 6-year-old to ride an 80cc motorcycle. Sometimes you don't have the best game plan either.
Sure.
But hey, I learned how to ride it.
The intention was there.
Oh, in spades.
Okay, so he said that when he goes to the doctor or when he goes to the dentist, like he doesn't feel the Novocaine, and that the dentist would say like, "Oh, you're one of those redheads." So then I looked into that, and it's true.
It really?
Yeah. I mean, it was known as a myth for a long time, but then there's been some studies on it since, and it's like
that redheads don't feel the effects of Novocaine?
So the MCR1 receptor, which is the thing that I was saying was defective
In Conan.
in redheads.
In
Yeah.
redheads.
Because that is what makes like basically brunette hair. I don't remember all the details, but there's a gene mutation on that.
There we go.
Yes.
Which mutation is the birth of all evolution.
Great. Still defective because it can't make brunette hair. So
If the goal is to make brunette hair.
So those receptors, the MCR1 receptors, they appear in the midbrain where pain perception is regulated. So there's evidence the gene also influences our response to injury and discomfort.
Oh.
So since 2000, a handful of small studies have examined the connection between redheadness and pain. A Louisville University team led by anesthesiologist, I'll never be able to say that, anesthesiologist, Daniel Sessler found that redheads require 19% more inhaled general anesthesia
No kidding.
than their darker haired counterparts.
Did you ask Jess if he's seen like that? One of his superpowers is he's impervious to pain.
I didn't, but the converse of this is that redheads of both genders need less of an opioid morphine to dull their pain.
Oh, that's counterintuitive. That seems like it'd be the opposite.
It is, but I guess there's two separate things happening there with the medication and the anesthesia and Novocaine and then
Interesting.
opioids. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now this helps give a little bit of scientific foundation to something I've anecdotally observed growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I only have a few rules on who I won't fight. You've heard them. You want to hear them
Tell
again?
'em. Yeah.
One rule of mine when I was younger was if something happens at a street light and temperatures flare and both gentlemen get out of the car and one of the gentlemen immediately removes his shirt, what you should glean from that is that man's ruined so many shirts fighting at stoplights that he's learned to take it off before fighting. So that's just a little bit of a tip that maybe you want to diffuse this interaction.
That's a smart tip. Yeah.
Another one I used to have when, again, I went to bars is, a guy that's kind of quiet with a wedding ring on, drinking by himself. You pick a fight with him. He's not fighting you. He's fighting his wife, his children, the oppression of the world around him. It's so layered. And, there's more going on than whatever's happening between you.
Uh-huh.
Third is if you can, avoid fighting a redhead. And this is what I observed growing up in grade school and junior high and high school is I saw many an outsized redhead get into a fight, get very emotional. I saw many redheads crying while fighting, but then victorious, seemingly impervious to pain and assault.
But I've also heard they're more sensitive to touch and temperature.
Oh my goodness.
So
we're really treating them like they're another species on this podcast.
I said defective.
We can do that though, because they're not marginalized in our society. Look at Conan. He's on top of the world.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
He's doing better than me.
And I brought up the one thing I learned in anthropology about redheads is that they're the only homogeneous group not attracted to each other.
Jess has said that too.
That's a scientific fact. So generally people that look the same are attracted to one another, but not redheads. They tend to want to date outside of being a red. You rarely see two redheads together.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating. Maybe we should do an entire week on redheads.
Sure.
You think so?
I'd love to do that.
There's got to be more mysteries. If we've uncovered all this doing very little digging, there's probably a panacea of interesting details about redheads.
Definitely.
Oh, also, let me throw out there, read, I think it's Tom Robbins, Still Life with Woodpecker. Okay. Still Life with Woodpecker is a phenomenal book. And one of the central themes is redheads.
Oh.
And how special they are.
Oh.
Yeah. And it really makes you covet.
Special.
Mutated.
Defective.
Well, mutated is special.
Sure.
Yeah. So you should love it. It's rare.
I do love it. I love redheads. I love Jess.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite people.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Is 2048 an election year? Yes.
Oh, it is.
It is an election year. Was IBM sending over computers to help the Nazis?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, good.
They were, but they weren't computers then. It was a punch card system. But yeah, they were very instrumental in helping the Third Reich.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you confirmed that because I could have had a real liable case on my hands.
Yeah, when you said it and I had to write it down, I was really shaking my head. But then you were absolutely right. I guess IBM does not really acknowledge this.
Sure, it's a bit of a regrettable part of their business history.
It is, but it is real.
Yeah.
Okay. Conan wrote for The Simpsons for season 4 and season 5. There was some questions about when he wrote for this, what seasons. It was 4 and 5. So he talks about his fantasy of going to the hospital for a stay for a few weeks. And then you reference Kristen's monologue in Bad Moms where she wants to get hit by a car.
Uh-huh.
And then I remembered that when I was cheerleading, when I was first starting and really and basically up until the very end, I was like praying to get hurt and not have to compete.
Really?
Yeah. I really
because you had so much anxiety about not performing well in the meet.
Yeah.
And it'd be easier to just have a good excuse.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah.
It's really crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy. It never happened.
Well, you did.
Oh, I did
rip your
actually.
Achilles.
I did. Well, my hamstring. Yeah, but that was after I stopped caring about that. Then I was really confident, but then it happened. But then I still had to perform. So
it's ironic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I ever had anything looming over me that was that stressful that I was praying for some kind of
intervention. Divine intervention.
Medical intervention.
Yeah.
It's funny you'd bring this up because I have a friend who's an actress who's been one since she was a child actor. She has a lot of medical issues, recurring medical issues. And part of me wonders if that was the only safe way she could stop the treadmill of being a child actor because it was more important, obviously. That's because she would have felt bad maybe saying, I need a break.
Yeah.
So your body gives you a break.
Mm-hmm.
Also, give me a break. Give me a break.
Sure.
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
I love a Kit Kat bar.
What do you think about doing fact check songs that are jingles?
Sure.
Give me some facts. Give me some facts. Break
nice.
me off a piece of that fact check bar.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's probably better than the Flash one I did earlier.
One of the funniest jokes I've ever seen on TV is in The American Office. There's an episode where Andy, played by Ed Helms, can't remember the end of that jingle. So the whole episode, he's replacing Kit Kat Bar with all of these crazy phrases. It is so funny. It's really, really funny.
I love Ed Helms.
Yeah.
Hey, Edward, get in here.
Yeah. We'd love to have
Why are you hiding from us?
Eddie on here.
I mean, he is another white male, but I still really want to talk to him.
I'd love to talk to him. Okay, so we ended the conversation. You were going on his podcast, and there was a debate as to whether or not you canceled on him day of. Now, do you have facts?
I do.
Okay. Did you cancel on him day of?
Well, here's my only question. When does his episode come out? Because the whole thing was in order to help drive people to that episode for the resolution. I'd feel a little bit unethical taking away the...
Okay. Well, you just said that you would never cancel day of, and I don't think that's true. I'm not judging. I reschedule all the time day of.
Right.
Sort of my thing.
That's your patented move?
Mm-hmm.
Monica Padman sucker punch?
Rescheduler.
Mm-hmm.
I do it. That's it.
That's everything.
That is.
Well, did you find yourself in awe of his mental powers?
Absolutely. He was really wonderful. I was, yeah.
You and I are horny for intellect, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? It's really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm. He has quite an abundance of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great.
Maybe there should be erotica for people like us. Like there's step brother and sister pornography. There's step parent pornography. There's every single niche of pornography. I don't know that there's one where someone recites the Magna Carta and then the other person just has a visible boner from it, you know?
Yeah, the problem is with that is it's not like, I mean, I do like learning, but the attraction is not because they know facts. It's because they can critically think and then manifest those facts into some interesting conversation.
Agreed. No one would be interested in Google. It's the critical thinking part that's so sexy.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're right. Maybe not reciting the Magna Carta.
Well, maybe before they have sex, they can just have an interesting conversation.
Or like some kind of complex IQ riddle. You know?
That's interesting.
Now you've got my attention.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a little bit of foreplay you do, like maybe the Mensa application.
Yeah, I'd like that.
And just see what happens.
And then clothes start coming off.
That's right.
Slowly.
With every right answer.
Yeah, I like this.
Ooh. Well, Monica, thanks for those facts. I love you.
You're welcome. I love
you. And happy Thanksgiving to you.
It's not Thanksgiving anymore.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Merry Christmas.